On this day in history, March 21st, 1800, with the church leadership driven out of Rome during an armed conflict, Pius VII is crowned Pope in Venice with a temporary papal tiara made of papier-mâché. Included in the following is an excerpt from the 1944 edition of the Encyclopedia Britannica, going over the life of Pius. Pius VII, Luigi Bernardo Chiaramonti, Pope from 1800 to 1823. The son of Count Scipione Chiaramonti and the deeply religious Countess Gini, was born at Cesena on August 14, 1740, not 1742. He entered the Benedictine monastery of St. Mary at Cesena and held various teaching appointments in the colleges of his order at Parma and at Rome. He was created an abbot of his order by his relative Pius VI, who also appointed him Bishop of Tivoli in 1782 and raised him to a cardinalate and the see of Imola in 1785. He became Pope on March 14, 1800. His attention was at once directed to the ecclesiastical anarchy of France, and he negotiated the celebrated Concordat of 1801. The importance of this agreement was, however, considerably lessened by the Articles Organiques, appended to it by the French government on April 8, 1802. In 1804, Napoleon opened negotiations to secure at the Pope's hands his formal consecration as emperor. After some hesitation, Pius was induced to perform the ceremony at Notre Dame and to extend his visit to Paris for 4 months. But in return for these favors, he was able to obtain from Napoleon merely 1 or 2 minor concessions. Napoleon soon began to disregard the Italian Concordat of 1803, and himself decreed the dissolution of marriage of his brother Jerome with Miss Patterson of Baltimore. The irritation between France and the Vatican increased so rapidly that on February 2, 1808, Rome was occupied by General Melois. A month later, the provinces of Ancona, Macerata, Fermo, and Urbino were united to the Kingdom of Italy, and diplomatic relations between Napoleon and Rome were broken off. Finally, by a decree issued from Schönbrunn on May 17, 1809, the emperor united the Papal States to France. Pius retaliated by a bull excommunicating the invaders, and to prevent insurrection, Melois, either on his own responsibility, as Napoleon afterwards asserted, or by order of the latter, employed General Radet to take possession of the Pope's person. On July 5th, Pius was made prisoner. He was taken to Grenoble, and then to Savona, where he steadfastly refused canonical institution to the bishops nominated by Napoleon. In 1812, the aged and sick pontiff was removed to Fontainebleau, where he was lodged in a suite of regal magnificence, to await the return of the emperor from Moscow. When Napoleon arrived, he entered into personal negotiations with the Pope, who, on January 25, 1813, assented to a concordat so degrading that his conscience found no relief until, on the advice of the Cardinal Pacca and Consalvi, he abrogated it, March 24th. And on the 9th of May, he defied the emperor by declaring invalid all the official acts of the new French bishops. Napoleon went back to Savona for safekeeping, but the course of events in 1814 forced him to liberate the Pope and give back the states to the Church. On the 19th of March, Pius left Savona, and was received with rejoicing at Rome on May 24th. Reaction set in at Rome. The Jesuits were restored. The French legislation, much of which was of great social value, was repealed. The Index and the Inquisition were revived. On his return from the Congress of Vienna, Consalvi conducted a more enlightened and highly centralized administration based largely on the famous motu proprio of 1816. Nevertheless, the finances were in a desperate condition. Discontent centralized perhaps in the Carbonari, a liberal secret society condemned by the Pope in 1821. Consalvi negotiated a series of valuable concordats with all the Roman Catholic powers save Austria. In the latter years of Pius's life, royalty often came to Rome. The Pope was very gracious to exiled kings and showed notable magnanimity toward the family of Napoleon. He attracted many artists to the city, including the greatest sculptors of the time, one of whom, the Protestant Thorvaldsen, prepared the tomb in which reposed the remains of the gentle and courageous pontiff, who passed into rest on August 20th, 1823. His successor was Leo XII.